Welcome back to this edition. I am Sasha Narishkin, and you are?
Luyanda Peter, all the way in Johannesburg.
And I am near the sprawling metropolis of Wolvaardt in rural France, if you know where that is. Interesting few topics we've got today, but first the ground rules. Will you set us up for the ground rules, please, Mr. Peter?
Very simple. We'll have a chat, 5 minutes per topic. A bell will ring at the end of each 5 minutes so that we move on to the next topic. And then the last segment is a Q&A where it's not about catching each other out, but it's also about us learning and our viewers learning.
I thought I was trying to take the mickey out of one another and see if one's sporting knowledge was poor. But let's get right into it. First up, we have the Women's Cricket World Cup. Mr. Peter, South Africa overcoming many odds to beat England by a whopping, resounding 125 runs yesterday. What were your first impressions of the game?
Well, firstly, I decided to repeat the jersey because, why not? One has to. Definitely our most comprehensive performance. I thought there was all-round contributions from everybody. Look at the bowling. Yes, Kapi went and took 5 for 20, but all the bowlers chipped in. 1 wicket here, 1 wicket there. Someone like Ayabonga, they just couldn't score off it.
Yeah.
So I think everyone contributed. Even in the batting. Laura went and scored the 169, but there was a 48 there was a 42. So there was contribution throughout the team, which is what I loved.
And don't forget Chloe Tryon. I think she went wicketless, but she bowled a really tidy spell and set up and started putting a little bit of pressure. And she also scored a very invaluable 33 of 26 balls. And all the way from the South Coast, Mr. Peter, Scottsboro High School. Did you know they had an international cricketer? I think it must be their first. Right. I think I also wanted to get into some comparisons. I think it's a little bit too early to say, oh, there's an AB Virat type comparison here, but it's looming on the horizon because Laura Wolvaardt becomes the 6th player in history to pass 5,000 ODI runs. And that is just hot on the heels of Smriti Mandana, who will be playing this morning against Australia. And the most surprising of all facts is that all men, all women for South Africa, Laura Wolvaardt has now more World Cup runs than AB de Villiers, who used to be the leader.
That's impressive. And she's still so young. Geez. But I just think this team just has the talent to take us to the next 2 or 3 World Cups and hopefully get to the same place and better.
Yeah, it's worth noting that this is the same team that lost to New Zealand. It's exactly the same team that lost to New Zealand in the T20 final in the UAE in October last year. So they've come a long way. They would have obviously experienced, like Laura Wolvaardt actually in the interview afterwards said, yeah, of course that 69 all out was in the back of their mind. So let me just add another 100 personally to that score. And probably one of the greatest knockout
Second greatest.
Obviously,
we know Harmanpreet Kaur did the 172 against Australia, also in a knockout. So hopefully she can do that again today, knock Australia out. And then because we've got a better record against India, right?
Yeah, we actually do. We've only ever beaten Australia once in one-day internationals. So I'm guessing from a sort of a local perspective, probably need India in the final too. They would, either team that we're going to play on Sunday mid-morning local time will have had the opportunity to play at the stadium that they're playing at today. Is that an advantage or not?
I think, look, today's game, if you're asking specifically about today's game, I think today's game is going to go down to the old guys, the old ladies have to come up and deliver. So on the Australian side, Alyssa Healy, Ash Gardner, they have to step up. On India's side, Schmidti, Mandana, we've just mentioned, and the captain have to come up with the runs. Annabelle Sutherland is going to be the big pick of the bowlers, but you've got Dipti Sharma on the Indian side. So I just feel today's game is going to come down to one or two people, like in our game, grabbing the bull by the horns and running with it. And that's, I feel this game is probably going to be closer than the South Africa game from yesterday.
Once again, I mean, when we spoke, we actually probably spoke more from our hearts than our heads. But hopefully, whoever we do play in the final, we can put up and I think they've made everyone proud. And I think anyone watching anywhere in South Africa will say, I want to play this as my sport, my number one sport.
Well, we hope so. And all the best for the ladies on Sunday. Right.
Straight into our next topic. And that is the Springboks versus the Brave Blossoms on Saturday. I think the kickoff is just after 6 o'clock in the evening, your time there. Is that right? Because it's 1600 local time in the UK. They've only played each other 3 times, as we said before, including one shock defeat back at the 2015 Rugby World Cup. They played Australia last weekend. That is the Brave Blossoms in Tokyo. And the game was 19-15. Obviously, home ground advantage. But what are the chances, Mr. Peter, knowing that sport can be very unpredictable, that the Brave Blossoms can upset the Springboks at Wembley, the home of football?
I said it last time. I think the chances are very low. Going back to the score you mentioned about last week's game, where Japan came close to Australia. Australians players hadn't been released by their clubs, which is happening again this week. So Australia this week is playing against England, and some of their Premier League players haven't been released, whereas England's ones have been released. So there's a bit of skullduggery, a bit of underhand stuff happening there in English rugby. Coming back to our game, Japan's got no chance. If you look at the Springbok lineup, I mean, only Rassie can pick a hooker on the wing.
Yeah.
I mean, with Ethan there.
But more interestingly, a center as a hybrid player. What do you make of that?
I mean, I was looking at this thing and I was saying, well, is this a 4-4 split on the bench? Someone said, well, maybe it's a 5.5, 2.5 split on the bench. But Rassie can do that because he's been building up this team. He's got the depth. I mean, he's bringing on the youngest prop since Oli Leroux, since 1994, in young man Zachary Potten. But again, he can do that because he's been building up the squad over time.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned Zach Poffen. He becomes, I think, the 16th player from Wynberg to be playing for the Springboks, although Robbie Fleck did finish off at Bishops. Maybe he's the second most famous person from Wynberg on a rugby front because, Leighton Mouton, the cheerleader, is much more famous than old Zach. But what does it say about picking someone out of effectively a junior team? He's only played 1.5 seasons of professional rugby. What does that say again about the depth and maybe the courage?
So Rassie is in such a good position that he can do that. And also this game allows him to do that. I don't think he would have given Zach his first cap against All Blacks. I don't think he would have given Zach his first cap against Ireland. But because it's Japan, but also because he surrounded him with such a strong squad that it's almost a soft landing for him.
Yeah.
And even the experiment with having the center as a bench replacement, he can do that in this game, but probably in other games as well because he's built that depth. So I think we're looking very good for 2027 Rugby World Cup. We're going to have depth in every position. The key thing, though, about this weekend is that fullback, are we looking a bit thin because Damian Willemse is injured?
Well, Cheslin Colby has actually been playing all his club rugby at fullback in Japan. So it's not like he's playing out of position. He plays for Tokyo Sun Goliath, and he's been playing a lot of his rugby there at fullback. So it's not as if he's sort of out of position. But if memory serves, that's the first time he's starting at fullback for the Springboks. But it does look like a very quick team. The weather's going to be good. I think the stadium's going to be completely sold out, and it could be close to a record crowd for watching rugby union internationals. I mean, obviously, next year at the stadium in Soweto, it could be eclipsed by that. But this is the biggest ever in the northern hemisphere.
Okay, I was about to say, because do you know that rugby union does have 100,000 capacity game
at the G, right? At the MCG.
MCG, yes, Bledisloe Cup, Australia and New Zealand. So yeah,
and 99.
But looking forward to it. But looking forward to this game. I think it will be good.
On to the next topic, Mr. Peter, of which I know this much. And those look like two wheels. It's Formula One. I mean, it's not a sport I particularly follow too much. I would say if you lined up the top 20 drivers and you put the top 20 golfers next to them, you would know who the athletes are. It's definitely the drivers. It's an incredibly physical sport. It's got an enormous following globally, 24 Grand Prix. It's just week in and week out, relentless from March all the way through to December the 7th. It's one of the closest in history. There are 4 races left. There are 3 drivers that could potentially win this. You tell me more, because I know very little about this sport.
Yeah, I mean, as you rightly say, probably the closest finish since the infamous 2021 season, where we had Mad Max Verstappen winning in Abu Dhabi against Lewis Hamilton. But this is probably the first time where you've had 3 drivers with a realistic chance of winning. And what makes it even more interesting, so the 3 drivers are obviously Lando Norris, 357 points, Oscar Piastri, 356, and then Max Verstappen on 321. But what makes it even more interesting is that 2 of them are from the same team, Lando and Oscar, and they've been allowed to race the whole season. Now, typically, what happens in a Formula One team is that there'll be a senior driver who will then, if the 2 drivers are kind of fighting, they'll say, okay, cool, let this guy through. Let's put all our energy behind the senior driver. But in this case, it's not happening. And in fact, these 2 drove each other off the circuit 2 weeks ago in Austin. So so you've got so the funny thing about this thing is that actually the 2 McLaren drivers could lose because they're fighting against each other, and then Max is just sitting at the back and he's just picking up points. And remember, in his team, he is the king, so they could actually, as I said, they could knock each other out, and then Mad Max goes in and snatches it at the death, which is not what we would like.
Yeah, the other driver from Red Bull, who's Max Verstappen's teammate, is so far down the table, there's not really a realistic chance of anything, which is better than places 19 and 20, which have 0 points, right? They're there's a chase to 0 down the bottom. Has that ever happened in Formula One before, that 2 drivers have ended on 0 points from the same team?
It does happen. Unfortunately, Formula One is one of those where money's does play a difference. In fact, I have a question for you. What would you say is more important in motorsport, right? Because, as you say, you may not know as much about Formula One. Is it the driver or is it the car?
I think for humanity, it's definitely the engineering around the car. But I think on race day, if everybody was equipped with exactly the same materials, so i.e. everyone, all 20 drove exactly the same motor vehicle, you'd probably find a similar table as you have now.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know if I agree with that, because you look at someone like Carlos. He was at Ferrari last season. He's now at a weaker team and is low down on the order. So I do think in Formula One, the car you have makes a big difference. The fact that McLaren has been so strong this season, they've got 1 and 2 on the table. Max is a good driver, make no mistake. I think if Max was in a Haas, he'd probably still be in the top 5. He wouldn't be in the top 3, but he'll definitely be 5, 6. He's that good a driver. But unfortunately, in a sport like Formula One, the cars are probably more important than the drivers. Is my view.
One of the biggest ironies is these guys all live in Monaco, which is like 4 kilometers across. So even if they were to own a high-performance car in Monaco, you can't drive faster than 50, 60 kilometers an hour, except when they have the Grand Prix, of course.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do you envisage, if you had to stick your neck out, what do you think will happen over the last 4
So my
races?
thing, I think Oscar Piastri is going to pull it. And Lando will finish second. And that's just my predictions.
And Max Verstappen third then.
Yeah, next third. Yeah. Happiness.
Happiness was the subject of our next segment, which is the greatest of all time, the GOATs of South African sports specifically. So we challenge each other to come up with 5 each. And it was difficult to find the criteria. So I just did a sort of modern era where people could make money out of their sports, even though I've selected some who wouldn't necessarily be on the rich. But why don't you give me your 5 quickly, and then I'll give you my 5, and then we can discuss.
Okay. So quickly. My number 1, Bruce Fordyce, 9 times Comrades winner. Number 2, Bernie McCarthy in the 18 area. Only South African to win a UEFA Champions League. Top goal scorer for Bafana. Number 3, Brian Mitchell, boxer. 45 wins, 1 loss, and 3 draws. Tatiana Smith, number 4. South Africa's most decorated Olympian. And then number 5, and this is one that's gonna have a lot of debates. Young Siyamthanda Kolisi, 2-time Rugby World Cup captain, Rugby World Cup winning captain. So give me your 5, and then we can discuss.
Absolutely thrilled that we have only 1 overlap. My 1 overlap with you is Siya Kolisi, for exactly the same reasons that you've mentioned. I do have a swimmer in there, and I also have an athlete in there, but mine are different. Mine are first and foremost Natalie du Toit as a swimmer. 13 golds, 2 silvers. Wade van Niekerk, obviously having run one of the most iconic races of all time. I also have a footballer in there, one you may or may not think deserves a place, but it's Lucas Radebe. And then my number 4 is, for what is me, one of the greatest 2 or 3 cricketers of all time. That is Jacques-Henri Callis.
Yeah, so quite interestingly, okay, so we both got Siya, and so I picked Siya, yes, as a Rugby World Cup winning captain, but also as a cultural icon. And I think his impact cannot be underestimated. And I think you've kind of gone the same. And I'm assuming you probably picked Lucas for similar
reasons.
For similar reasons, yes. I kind of figured that. I kind of figured that Lucas was more, for cultural impact.
He does have a semi-final at the UEFA Champions League for Leeds United, and he has captained South Africa twice to World Cups. So, I suppose it's debatable. He's also a very loyal person, only really ever played for 2 clubs, played out of position, went outside of his comfort zone too. Interesting. You pick Siya Kolisi's ex-sister-in-law there.
Yeah, so I think on swimming, to be honest, I had a look at someone like a Chad Leclos as well. But I just feel that Tatiana, and maybe it's that whole thing of kind of, now, like we're looking at players who are kind of more newer. So perhaps I played into it. But Natalie du Toit, I wouldn't,
I also think she's got, visibility. I remember seeing her once at Melrose Arch, and she was just getting hugs from absolutely everybody from all walks of life. She's also got a deep impact on South Africans. Tell me, Brian Mitchell, my dad absolutely loves boxing, so there must have been other boxers in there that might have come close.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the Rose of Soweto, Dingan Tobela, who was unlucky in my top 10 to miss out. By the way, Jacques Callis was also I put him under my unlucky to miss out. But Brian Mitchell just defended his title 12 times. He just, yeah, I mean, any boxer in South Africa just kind of knows that his stats are just incredible. I mean, 45-1 with 3 draws is better than anyone else in South Africa. Corey Saunders are on there, but they just don't match up to young man Brian.
Maybe let's give our last 30 seconds to Siya Kolisi. Why? And do you think there's a distinct possibility, if we're still doing this in 4 or 5 years' time, that he might become not just one of the greatest, but the greatest of all time?
I'm not sure about greatest of all time in terms of, are you talking about in rugby or just South Africa?
Captain.
Probably with a 3rd Rugby World Cup title. And what we spoke about earlier with Rassie building a deep squad. Yeah, possible.
Moving quickly and swiftly along, where I have a complete blank page on number 5, because you asked me very nicely in a WhatsApp, and I said, it's not my show, it's your show.
Our show. So Sesh, so our first 5 facts are based on my top 5 greatest of all time. Need to listen carefully to some of these questions because there's a little nuance in some of them, not all of them. I'll start with an easy one. So the first question is, in which former British colony was Bruce Fordas born?
Wow. Actually, no, Bruce personally. I used to write a daily piece, and he used to send me corrections. He was very distinct on his grammar. Met him a couple of times. What a lovely guy. Have no clue, but I'm going to say maybe Zambia?
Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Number 2, the only boxer to beat Brian Mitchell is Jacob Morake. Okay, South African. How many times did they fight? In the ring, of course.
This is all professional fights, I'm presuming.
All professional fights, yes.
I'm going to say 3.
Close. 4.
It's
incredible that they fought 4 times. I guess Brian just wanted to make sure that, hey, listen, I am better. Okay, this is one where you have to listen carefully. And yeah, I can repeat it if you want. Siya Kolisi was born in Zwide, a township in Port Elizabeth, now known as Abeja. Which other Springbok rugby captain was born in the townships of Port Elizabeth?
So you're saying this must be a woman. I don't know. I give up.
Okay, at least you had half of it right. Nomsebenzi Tsotsobe was the first ever captain of the Springbok women's rugby team in 2004.
Oh, wow.
But do you know another interesting stat about her, or fact about her?
Tell me.
She has a famous brother.
Oh, yes? Who?
Lopsi Tsotsobe.
No way.
Proteas cricket, yes. Nomsebenzi Tsotsobe and Lopsi Tsotsobe, brother and sister, siblings. Incredible, eh?
They scrum down or bowl bounces at each other in the backyard.
Well, they're about the same height. So have you seen Lopsy in terms of how tall he is? They're about the same height. So, okay, next one. Benny McCarthy finished as the 2nd highest goal scorer in the Premier League in 2006-2007 season. Which African player was a top goal scorer that season?
I don't know. You're testing my knowledge on sports I know nothing about. That 2006-2007, Didier Drogba?
100%. Well done. We're just guessing. Oh, hey, dude, you're a legend.
How many?
The last one. This one also makes you think a bit. Okay. Who was the first South African to win a swimming gold medal at the Olympics? Swimming gold.
The first South African. How far back are we going here?
Answer the question. That's why I said there's a trick.
A swimming gold. Oh, I was having a look at the South African, and there was
Let
some
me give
guy.
you a clue. She's from East London. She is from East London.
She is from East London. It can't be Penny Haynes, no?
Okay, so that's why I said there's a bit of a trick here. So it's Joanne Harrison from East London at the 1952 Olympics, but obviously Penny Haynes was the first swimmer to win a gold medal post isolation. So yeah, so that's why I said there's a bit of
Half a point.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a tricky question there. Okay, so can we just do 3 quick ones on rugby, since we've still got under a minute? Who's the youngest ever player to play for Springboks in the modern era? So post 92.
Francois Steyn.
Perfect. 19 years and 181 days. Who's the oldest player to make a Bok debut?
Wow.
He played in the last World Cup.
He did, and he was our cover at hooker, right, in the World Cup final.
Dion Fourie, 35 years, 287 days. Who's the oldest player to play in a Bok match? Well, oldest Springbok to play in a Test match, I should put it like that.
I don't know. Nas was 55.
Lock.
I don't know. Who is it?
It's a lock. So it was young Victor Matfield at 38 years and 172 days.
Wow. That is
so yeah, so awesome, man. So some great facts there. And I hope we're both learning, because I certainly didn't know most of these, except probably the Siya Kolisi one, but the others I didn't know. So I think it's good that we also just get to learn
100%.
about South African sport, about global sport, actually,
And there was a very popular one that people quite liked, was the schoolboy rugby thing. So maybe we'll do another segment on that, on derbies and stuff like that. And hopefully the next time we're talking, the Proteas women could have pulled off their own Everest on Sunday. Tune in, have a watch, and we'll also cover some stuff on South African women's cricket next week and who the new next talents are. So until next time. Over and out.
Cheers.